Segment 2, Gold and Black Live. Two good people on this show, not just Matt Painter, but Brian Newbert also join us and this is, I know, Matt's media highlight of the year, so we appreciate his time. You're already into practice. It's an ongoing deal, and Brian's going to have more intelligent questions to ask than I will, but I do just give us a little bit of overview of where, how things have gone early on and how you're feeling about the start of this season.
Yeah, we've had some good practices. I think it's a little different when you have so many new guys. Like last year, really looking at it like you're blended in Lance Jones, you're blended in Miles Colvin, and then everybody else is at least familiar with at least a redshirt season, if not an actual game experience. And then with Braden and with Zach, like those are kind of two big pillars in terms of your center, the guy you go to a lot, and then your point guard who you run a lot of ball screen action with. So you really are going to play off those two things. And so like going into it, it doesn't mean other things aren't ran for other people, but not obviously at the same volume. So now, you really kind of start from an offensive standpoint, with Braden and his ball screens and how you handle that and how he can, kind of dictate a game like a quarterback. And so we're going to continue to go down that path. But you also have to understand as a coach, it's something that everybody's going to try to take away from, right? They're going to try to take that element away from us. So you got to be able to counter that and have options and understand. But just working with our big guys and some different matchups, different lineups, with Trey Kaufman, being at the 4, and then who plays alongside of him, just because he gives us an ability to score, whether that's, from the high post or whether that's from the low post. I really like his matchup, and he's worked really hard to be in a position in terms of a score in a lot of different ways. Obviously, Fletcher's usage can improve here, but also like he needs to really be aggressive when he has space and when he has angles and when things are ran for him, and then be a ball mover when everything is kind of straight up. I think our ball movement has to be a big piece of our efficiency on offense, and then just to combine things. But we have a lot of options. Our backcourt, we've added a couple guys that can handle the basketball and play both positions at the 1 and 2, and CJ Cox and Jakari Harris. So trying to get them into a lot of different kind of setups and how we play and what we run and what we do along there. And then obviously Miles Colvin and Cam Heide, they give us that size on the wing, big guards, hybrid forwards, however you want to clarify that. But love their ability to shoot and love their athleticism, and now kind of piecing them in and playing those roles and getting them to play to their strengths is going to be really important for us. It's going to be really important for them because I think that their ability to make shots when they're there can be huge for us, but also they got to be able to use their athleticism to help us in other areas. They got to rebound the ball. They got to guard the basketball. They got to make good decisions. And sometimes making good decisions is just being simple with that. But Riley Burgess has played well, done some really good things, has shot the ball well, very coachable, very functional, kind of as like a 4-5. Will Berg has played hard and been very physical for us. Caleb gives us that experience, a guy that can guard there, and been in a lot of games. So when you kind of look at our front line and you throw Daniel in that mix, who blocks shots better than the rest of the guys and gives us a flip up lob type guy to go to, and obviously he had a really good summer. We have a lot of options there. Brian Waddell had his best practice of the year. Yesterday really did some good things in terms of driving the ball and just being aggressive and making some plays and rebounding the ball. And so I like, our guys. I like where we're at. I don't know how we'll play at times. I think we can play a couple different ways during the course of one game in terms of being a little bit smaller or being a little bit bigger. But it's still going to be quality, and it's still going to be how you get guys and to play together and how they play together. And really the growth of it is as practice goes on, who really helps us from the kind of the collective intelligence. standpoint, like who's going to play to their strengths, who's going to play without turning it over, who can guard people, who can rebound, who's just going to overall bring value to Purdue's basketball team. It's about winning. And a lot of times people talk and it gets muddled because they're talking on talent. Everybody's talented. But who's productive? Who can play without making mistakes? Who can concentrate? And who can kind of slide in from a role definition standpoint as we start to really kind of morph our team?
Matt, obviously last year, Braden unlocked a lot in Zach, but Zach unlocked a lot in Braden from a scoring perspective. How are those guys now, Trey, Jacobson, Burgess first, etc., kind of coexisting with him from an offensive perspective?
Yeah, well, I think
stuff.
I think it starts by your execution and your ability to screen. We haven't been great at screening so far from anybody outside of our ball screens. Like they understand that element of, hey, I got to set a good ball screen. I got to set it at a good angle. And now let's read how they're handling those ball screens. So we put a lot of time into that from an offensive standpoint, more than anything. And I think that's what it kind of comes down to for us is that whether we're in motion or whether we're running sets, our execution just has to be at a high level. We have to be able to make reads. I don't worry about some of those reads, especially when Braden has the basketball. It's the other guys that I've mentioned so far. Like it's there for them to be really good players, but can they continue to play to their strengths and understand their strengths as we kind of work through some things right here.
Yeah, you have so many options, it seems, from a coaching standpoint. Obviously, what you went through last year and all that was, how does this team have an edge going in? It seems to be out to the untrained eye of Braden Smith and a Fletcher Lawyer bring that, maybe Trey Kaufman-Renn as well, in terms of just that edge to want to be great every day. How do you see this team's makeup from that standpoint and just having that edge to be great, even early on in their careers?
Yeah, there's just not a lot of people out there, if there's anybody at all. I think Alabama could say it, that it went to a Final Four and returned 3 starters.
Yeah.
I think UConn has 1 starter back, if I got that correct. And then NC State, I think they have 1 starter back, maybe 2 starters back. I think it's 1. I think it was their point guard who got hurt in our game.
Taylor.
Jaden Taylor's back, but no, their point guard. I'm losing my mind here. But he's also back. So they have a couple guys that have been in a Final Four. So, we have the most Final Four starters from the previous year. So it's a great place to start. I think the confidence that a great player brings everybody else has been there for all those guys, and it hasn't been them, right? Like you walk out on the court and you feel good about having the National Player of the Year, on your team. But they also, the people that you mentioned, have carried a lot of weight for us. Like they've been, big time players in big time games. And I think that experience and our scheduling up the last couple of years has really helped them and helped their confidence. When you do play the people that we're getting ready to play, you've been there and done that. Now, not everybody can say that on your team. So we're hoping the guys that we're talking about can now give that confidence, to others while they're out there. And that's not nothing you say. It's just kind of how you carry yourself and how you compete. And we're looking forward to it. We know we have a tough schedule and we know it's going to be very hard, but it's also something that, we have to embrace. Because what it does when you play a hard schedule, it gives you your real issues. Sometimes it gives you real issues that you don't want to look at, even when you win. Yeah. And you're like, now, like, hey, this brought this out. And they go, oh, look, Purdue has a problem. Whereas if you don't play those people, everybody just is like, hey, I don't know how you can beat this team. Well, they're not exposing their weaknesses. Those other teams that are of a high level are going to expose our weaknesses. Now we can go to work on those things because everybody has weaknesses and everybody has issues. But if you never get to it before conference play, now you kind of get steamrolled in conference. And now you're looking at things and saying, hey, what happened to us? Well, nothing happened to us. This is who we've been all along, but we just didn't challenge ourselves enough to get to that point.
I'm sure it never got boring or stale coaching the best player in the country. But is it fun? Is it rejuvenating as a coach to have to change a little bit?
A little bit different. I wouldn't use the word rejuvenating, but you just move to your next challenge. Even though when he came back, you still saw improvements, and there's always noise, like how to play and like how to do things and what and so like we've been able to make some improvements in our program that have nothing to do with somebody being the best player in college basketball. It has to do with the discipline that player had to get to that point. Like he stays in games because he doesn't foul. And everybody always say, hey, you'll be more aggressive, like be more aggressive. Like last 2 years, we've, had the fewest amount of fouls in the country and the fourth fewest amount of fouls in the country. And now our free throw disparity was the best. Well, we can still not foul people. Like that has nothing to do with him, right? We're just not going to get fouled as much. That does have something to do with him. Yeah. But we still are going to be aggressive. We still have a penetrating point guard that's going to be aggressive. We still have a good low post player in Trey Kaufman-Renn. And so we're still going to crash the glass and get on the glass. We got good bodies on our front line. We got quickness in our backcourt that can chase down rebounds. So our offensive rebounding, numbers, we got to keep that up there. We got to do a great job of rebounding the basketball and doing those things.
Your culture has been well documented, not only around here, but in a national level, and being able to build that. Yet you talk about noise, and it's everywhere. With some of the happenings this week with a certain UNLV quarterback on down. How do you keep in this world of NIL and transfer portal, in terms of what's your focus, what's your message with your guys in terms of that? How do you keep that? Do you think from a long term being where you want it to be?
Well, just be forthright. When somebody comes back on you and says something to you and stuff like that, you just go back to what you said before, and whether they want to argue that or not argue that, it's this is the way it is, like for this year. And then you move to the next year and you try to make some improvements and do some different things to help them. But we're all sitting here waiting on this settlement. And now once that settlement hits, now our administration can get to a number, and then we can be able to move from there, and everybody else can do that too. And we're hoping there's the guardrails to make this, more competitive and more equal, to where like the people with the most money don't get the best players. Like we're all pretty similar in terms of how much money we're getting, but it's going to be an institution decision. But you're hoping some of those parameters balance everything out, because that's what you want. You just want a healthy balance. There's always going to be angles, no matter what the parameters are, from certain people, and that's part of it. Like worry about yourself, worry about how you're navigating it, and just stay positive, and don't make a big deal like when you lose somebody. Like when fans and other people, like I saw speculation on a couple kids that have committed other places or whatever. It's just it's bad. It's like don't speculate and talk like you have no idea, even though we might have an offer out to somebody or something's happening, like we really aren't pushing, or we're really not going, or we never were really in the picture, but on the surface it looks like we are. Like and that can happen both ways, right? And so like you just move on. Like it's no big deal. Like if somebody says, hey, like I got to have X amount of dollars and you don't have it, it's widely known that we've done more for the people that have helped us win 2 Big Ten championships and help us win a Final Four. Like Zach Edey was, he was taken care of. He made more than the minimum last year in the NBA. So like now the guys that helped us get there, they've been taken care of. Now, could they go on the free market and get more? Well, sure. But now they're not going to get a Purdue education, and now they're not going to have the experiences of being here. And if they're Purdue guys, they're going to show that loyalty. They just are. And like, we don't want someone signing with us and not having that loyalty towards us. It doesn't mean they can't transfer because of other factors, because they can. But we found some guys that have wanted to be at Purdue, wanted to get an education at Purdue, wanted to help us win championships. And those are some experiences that have nothing to do with, getting $50,000 more or $100,000 more. Those dudes that are doing that are driven that way, and the other things aren't in play. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter, because it does matter. It does matter. It is an element in it. But at the end of the day, and it's your future, and you got to do that through education. You got to do that through people. And then if the people that I really respect, the young people that I respect, are the ones that are saving it. Because I know when I was 20, I wasn't saving it. I was burning it. And so like the ones that are saving it, and now they can hold on to that and now put themselves in a really good position, especially when they start their own family and start to buy a house, things of that nature. And now they don't have some of the burdens that most others have, with that's cool, because they are, they are going out there and competing and playing and laying on the line and making a lot of money for everybody, including myself.
Yeah.
Matt, I don't want this to sound redundant, but as all of this new world order has kind of struck, your program has sort of sat out the meat market part of it. Yet you've had 3 straight number 1 teams. You just played for a national title. What does that say about, I guess, your program and how you've tried to run things in the face of all this stuff changing?
Yeah, well, a lot of it, like, you don't, like, to me, like, you don't want a reward for it, because you shouldn't be rewarded for doing what you're supposed to do. Like, don't get lost away from what's the most important, and that's these guys and their future. So if you can set some basic ground rules and run a program, it's going to help. Coach Katie was a master at that. It's going to help, but it's also, you got to allow them freedom to grow as individuals. And the one thing that we don't want to do is enable them. And so, like, guys that, from an academic standpoint, like, get out in front of things, like, understand, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And when some of that's a weakness in the class that you're taking, like, just get out in front of it. No different than, a weakness in basketball. There's nothing in the rule book that says that Noob has to dribble with his left hand, because Noob doesn't have a left hand. And so there's nothing in the rule book that says that. So Noob needs to dribble with his right hand. And so there's no different, like, in life that is in education. And just, make sure you understand the big picture of things. Like, make sure you understand why you're coming to Purdue. And if you battle that in recruiting and they choose Purdue, like, now, we're not operating under false pretenses. Like, what you're getting at Purdue, how we're going to be at Purdue, and then how we run things, I think, is really going to help you going forward in life, not just basketball. You're going to learn the game, but you're also going to learn, hey man, like, treat people the right way, handle yourself. So, your culture really gets set through kind of your non-negotiables, but ultimately it gets set by having the right people. That's really, and sometimes it's not always the right kid, it's the people around that kid. Like, that is so true. Like, that is so true. Like, let them handle their adversity, because an adversity is a beautiful thing. That's how you grow. That's how you grow. If you're a complainer when adversity hits, you're killing yourself, you're killing the people around you. Like, just grow from it. Like, embrace it. Like be excited about something being hard. Like, it is hard work, man. Like, it's going to be hard. And then when it hits, man, don't shrink or get small. Like, embrace that stuff and tackle it. And now that's how you get better, and that's how we're going to get better.
So my theory is that a lot of the NIL and portal stuff has helped Purdue because it's served as a more effective filter on the front end.
You are correct.
Do you agree with that?
You're 100% correct. It allows you to kind of see, hey, they're and don't turn your nose up to it. Like, I think that's the one thing. Like, other people in our league nationally, they're doing some things differently than us. It doesn't mean we're right and they're wrong whatsoever. Everybody's at a different school. Everybody's in a different part of the country. Everybody's in a different league. Got different ADs. You got different board of trustees. You got a different way of going about things. So, like, it is what it is. Like, we got teams in our league that are picked to win our league, and 80% of their guys, 70% of their guys weren't on their team last year. It just shows you, like, hey, they're doing it in a different fashion. They're accumulating players, through the portal. It doesn't mean they're wrong. They're not wrong. And it's like, and then you hear, like, the gross dollar amounts, like, whatever. Hey, like, so be it. Yeah. Who cares? We still get to play them on a cool Wednesday night in February. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we still get to play them. We still get to go out there and compete and have a chance to beat those teams just like they have a chance to beat our team. It's still competition. Like, don't let it steal your joy.
Yeah, I love that term, and that is true. You're a young 54. Brian Newbert just turned 47, and he does have a killer left hand. I can attest to that. But
how
do you, your competitive advantage to, still, and I question Ken Halpin would be our guest in the next segment, but talking about that ability to, does the fact that you're still trying to get these young men in your situation an education and get something outside of NIL that can give you and an experience, give you that competitive advantage in recruiting and maybe just the way you want to do business down for the rest of your career.
Yeah, and I think you got to stay, you're focused in what you do every day. Like you go to class every day, you play basketball every day. Like that's hard enough right there. And so like you negotiate what you negotiate, you lay down like this is the way it is. Like some people are negotiating stuff, some people aren't. This is the way it is. I think there's just differences in that world, but there's not differences in going to class and going to practice, right? And so like that's where we are. Like we don't sit around and talk about anything besides our players' improvement and all those areas. And so we do a lot of different things to help them in that regard. I think we kind of treat what we do like a class, and they have to put in work outside of basketball for this. It just can't be the practice time. Football has a great way of going about things, and they're always like, hey, you got to get your nose in that playbook. You got to get your nose in that playbook. And then when someone struggles and say, hey, he didn't look like he knows what he's doing. Yeah, because he doesn't have his nose in his playbook, and he can't retain information. He's talented. He can run. He's got a good 40 time, but he has no idea what he's doing in his coverages. None, zero. But yet he's talented and he was a 5-star, and damn it, well, he's not helping us win. So the guys that are in their nose in the playbook and they know what they're doing and they have a feel for what's going on, now their talent takes off because of their knowledge and their understanding. But if guys are trying to figure out what's going on and they're a little bit lost in areas and like whatever, they're not going to reach their max right then. That's why you see people jump the most from that freshman to sophomore year. They say, well, my head's not spinning anymore because it's tough to take in. Well, go and work harder at it as a freshman. Go and work harder at it, when you're in an apartment and you're looking through plays, whether it's our video booklet or whether it's stuff on paper or however you have to learn, and really dive into that and give yourself the best chance to play multiple positions. One of the hardest things to do in basketball is for someone to learn like a couple positions, especially 3 positions. It's a nightmare for certain guys because they don't process sometimes that way. And you got to get there. And then people are like, hey, you think that's a little bit too much for them? Like, well, it gives us a lot of things to run. It gives us a lot of things to do. And it gives us a lot of things to counter once somebody, challenges us and takes something away. And so like, we feel like that's our strength, but we also try to recruit towards that. So you do have the mental capacity to take a lot in and go out there and play and execute and, and just keep the defense on their heels more than anything else. And then defensively, just stick to our rules and how we play. And we've made some progress here defensively. We're the 12th best defense in the country last year after like being around 22, 23 the year before. And the year before that, we were like in the 80s. We were terrible. And, but we also made some strides here in the last couple of years and guys simply doing their job. Nothing crazy, just doing their job on the defensive end. So if we can stay where we are efficiency offensively and then move our defense up even more to where like we're a top 10 offense and defense, it's going to speak for itself, right?
Can you assess?
Brian, time for one more. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Can you just assess real quick what you have to do as a program defensively and on the glass now that you don't have the Statue of Liberty at the rim?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. You got to, do a better job of staying out of rotations, and we double the post. So you're going to get into some rotations. I think that's first and foremost, because once you're in that rotation, I think we're going to have to do a better job by committee getting to those rebounding numbers. Braden is a very good rebounding guard. Now the size that we have, if we go ultimately big, like that size has got to help us be a great rebounding team. If it doesn't, then what's the purpose? Then, how are you going to improve us then offensively or, just straight defensively? Are you a good rim protector? Are you a guy who takes charges? Are you a good team defensive guy? Do you keep us connected by doing what you're supposed to in all areas? Those things are going to matter because a lot of people don't look at like, well, why aren't you a good rebounding team? Like, because normally like you get beat off the dribble a lot and you're playing behind play. When you play behind plays, you foul more and you don't get as many rebounds. When you stay in front of things and you stay connected with doing what you're supposed to, not letting people get angles, not getting behind plays, making people score over you, keeping the ball out of the paint, you're going to rebound better. If you got somebody driving, somebody helping, and somebody blocking a shot, and you got 3 people on the ball and he misses that shot, the percentages over here on the weak side isn't very good for you, considering the biggest guy on the court for you is blocking a shot and the biggest guy on the court for them is over on the weak side. So things of that nature are really important. People just kind of look at the actual rebound, but they don't look what led up to that. Mm-hmm. So you got to do a good job of kind of setting that triangle, at the front of the rim and on the blocks. But you get a lot in today's game on those long rebounds and pursuing them. You got to get a good challenge on shots without fouling, and then you got to be able to chase that ball down. And because when you can get those long rebounds, you can treat them like turnovers and really push it. And now you're turning your defense into offense.
My last question is to process. You're a real process person. Your teams have been that way for years. What keeps you excited about doing this for 10 or 15 more years? What will have to happen in this environment for you to stay in this business for the long term, the coaching business?
Right. I should say. Yeah, just to keep adjusting, like keep your eyes and ears open to kind of what is the best. That doesn't mean that's what everybody else is doing. Like we've always tried to feel like, what's the best thing for Purdue and in the Big Ten with us and how we are personally and things of that nature. And just staying along the lines of the substance of it. I think like playing the game the right way starts with getting players that will play the game the right way. Like a lot of times people are like, man, you guys do a great job. And you're like, I don't know about that. But his parents and his high school coach did a good job with him. And like not trying to take talent and then get them to be something that maybe they can't. Really trying to go and focus on people that are already doing what you need them to do. That helps. That really, really helps. And if you can keep doing that, now your longevity will be more because you're keeping it. That keeps it fun for me. Like getting the guys that we have on our team right now, it's like looking in the film room and like, okay, like who really is a pain in the ass here? And you look around, you're like, nobody. Yeah. You're like, nobody. Doesn't mean we're perfect, but like no one's like an absolute pain in the ass. And like go around and like hook up coaches to a lie detector and give them that quiz. Some people have 4 or 5 guys in the room, but they can jump over the moon. They're really talented. They feel like they got to take them. And now they're trying to coach people into doing some things. It's really, really hard to do. So like we've kind of had a soft landing spot because first of all, I think our location is big time. Being where we are in the Midwest, in the state of Indiana, whether you go to Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Kentucky, like wherever you go, and obviously we've had guys, that we've branched out and got it. Like Jakari Harris is a great example. Like his high school coach at Grayson is really good. They got a good staff. Like I went in there and watched them so much. Like I was just impressed. They obviously win the state. They got good players. They got good talent, but they know what they're doing and they do things the right way. And so like that to me, it was like refreshing. I go into CJ Cox's school at Milton and I'm talking to his AAU coach while I'm there and just like how they've ran their program at Middlesex and like how they do things there at Milton. And like, you just see it like, hey man, he's going to be prepared. He's coming in here and he's prepared. And I could go on and on. Obviously we've had some guys that, come from, really good spots. And Jack Benner, I didn't mention, Jack Benner's been like fabulous. Like he can pass, he can shoot, he knows how to play. He takes things in. Like he's going to be a good player at our place. Like Raleigh Burgess and his high school coach texted me yesterday, and like just from good programs, right? And obviously Jack's dad coached their team, and they were very successful. And Raleigh had this injury his junior year, and that was tough, and had some lingering things. But like they come from good programs. Daniel obviously coming from Brewster. And all the players they've had there, but Coach Smith does a good job in the prep. And like, so like when you see that and like now when they come, like somebody else has done your work for you already instead of just starting at ground zero and they're like, you start to speak and they're looking at you like you got horns coming out of your head. You're like, oh boy, he doesn't understand. He's like in a foreign language class here. He doesn't understand a word I'm saying. Like that has happened to every coach, but that's partially on the coach, and that's partially on me when that happens. Not partially, it's on me. And so like now, like just do a better job. If that's what you want, and like you want guys that have that or whatever, recruit those programs. and it's hard too, man. It's, everybody else is trying to do the same damn thing, but like that makes it refreshing for me. And I think that adds years to your career if you can keep it that way, because it's fun. It makes it fun for me when people aren't like trying to let me coach them or talk to them, and we don't pitch that hard of a bargain. Like, man, it's just unenjoyable. Like, damn, I got to go through this again. Or you get somebody around the player that's just difficult to be with, and they can't see anything besides their son or daughter or whoever. It's like, hey, man, this is a team sport. Like, I'm going to do what's best for Purdue, but don't act like I don't love your kid. Don't act like I don't want what's best for him. But like, understand that the team supersedes the individual. So like, when you get guys from good programs and good families and they get it, like, man, it's cool, because it can't work for 13. It just can't. It's just not the way it works. I'm going to play 8. I'm going to play 9. Maybe every now and then I can play 10. But like, we're not getting past that. There's 3 people out in the wind. There's 4 people out in the wind. There's 5 people out in the wind. Well, it's development. It's getting better. It's trying to get yourself in a better position. But at the end of the day, you circle things around your best guys. And sometimes another guy complements those best guys better than you. It doesn't mean he's ultimately better than you. He's just better than you with the personnel that we have.
All right. Well said.
I have some questions for Nick. Can we get him back?
Yeah.
Well, we got Nick, to set it up. Like, well, I don't know why we need to close it down.
I was just going to say, I've worked with a pain in the ass Brian Newbert for 26 years or whatever, and I've survived. I don't know how I've done it, but maybe it's because I talk to you every year, Coach.
You got a spot in heaven for that. You got a spot.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Thanks so much for your time, Brian. Always thanks for your expertise as well. You, we will hear from Ken Halpin in the next segment, and Matt Painter is off the hook for another year at Gold and Black Live. We appreciate him. Good luck this year, and good luck the rest of this preseason. Everybody will be excited to see what happens in 24-25. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes on Gold and Black Live.